Hello, my name is Tyler Castaneda. For this project, I was a member of the Calibrating Company team. Our mission statement was Calibrating Company is an organization that spends significant time in aiding a wide range of enterprising, using the advantage and innovation that accompanies cameras and our mind-blowing drones, while we also provide a pleasant experience in front of the camera for our customers that will remain just as ageless as the photos that they will love for a lifetime. So for this project, we decided to go for a low-cost strategy that we figured would factor in a bunch of different aspects such as the environmental protection and the green programs. We didn't want to go too hard in investing way too early into certain aspects such as plant expansion. We wanted to keep costs low, and while the revenues weren't exactly going to be high because of it, we figured a balance would be useful there. Although around, I think, year 9 or 10, we did attempt what you could call a best cost strategy, which was more along the lines of just flipping the numbers and trying to make the certain aspects such as earning per share or revenues go up every so often through different increments by just going into the system and changing maybe the cost of the drones or maybe how much our workers were paid. Just making the number go up, and if it went up in earnings per share, we would keep it there. If it went down, we would change it back. More like trying to have our cake and eat it too. We would try to change the numbers instead of relying on a very dependable overall strategy that we could work with. Our goals were changing constantly when we found that this strategy, or quote-unquote strategy, wasn't working too well as we were starting to fall behind our competition, mainly Allied, the other group in the project. And we figured that course correction in this case would be to simply make up for what was falling behind. If our revenues were going down, we would change more the values that were associated with revenues and try to keep everything else high. If our credit rating went down, we would change that. We would constantly switch back and forth between trying to keep everything high and trying to keep one thing that was falling short high. And as a result, we didn't really have much of a strategy towards the end. It was more just mitigate what we were losing. We were trying to stay one step ahead of Allied, who was at a certain point firmly ahead of us in every category, from earnings per share to revenues to image rating. And we figured that if we just fudge the numbers a little bit in every so often in each direction, by going through and changing literally every single value and seeing what it would do to the projections, we figured we might be able to catch up, but it became clear to us at a certain point that that just wasn't feasible. We weren't able to essentially return to where we were at the top based on our lack of strategy towards the middle. So if I were to do this again, I would essentially stick with a low-cost differentiation, niche focus, or best cost strategy at the beginning and go through with it the whole way, because I feel like it would be a more consistent return. And I feel like that's what Allied did. I can't obviously look at what they did. I can't look at their numbers or talk to their group members about what their strategies were, since it was a competition. But I feel like it was more strategic in their part than it was ours, where we tried to take the easy way out. Didn't really look at the strategies too much when we saw that changing the numbers and watching the projection numbers rise or go down was all we really needed to do. But that's very short-term, short-sighted way of working with this kind of project, and for something that demands multiple years worth of simulation, we figured it was probably that caused us to decline, not sticking with the strategy for the long term, which, as most of our textbooks in this field would tell you, long-term strategies are way more effective, useful, and will lead to higher returns than the high risk, high rewards of the short term, or what would be happening now might not happen later. And I learned from my competitors that you can't just look at what they're doing, try to change where you were low, and next time it might be better. You have to have a strategy that's consistent, that will work with you when you work with it. You have to look at what your allies are doing, or your competitors rather, they're allied, your competitors are doing and see where you're falling short, but you shouldn't try to just pick one aspect where you're failing and focus entirely on that while leaving the rest behind. So my personal takeaway from this project was that it's a lot harder on the surface to run a business with all these factors, such as having to decide where we're going to market, how long we're going to market, what our prices for each of our drones are going to be, our cameras, learning when to go green, when not to go green. We were very proud of the fact that we stayed green and energy efficient and were environmentally friendly for the entire duration of the project. We didn't compromise that to save a couple dollars. We were very adamant that that was more important than compromising our ideals, especially since our image rating probably would have lowered if we had done so. So this is a very useful exploration into what it would be like to manage a business, and what the strategies how it would affect your results in the long run, not just the short run. So doing this over the course of the entire semester was very insightful and has taught me a lot about what we should do and what we should not do when we actually go into the business fields for ourselves. So thank you for listening to me.